for June 24th to order. And please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. You okay?
Yeah, the chair is making a noise.
All right. I'd like to welcome everyone. And Gabe, are you doing the roll? Yes. All right.
Commissioner Nesbitt.
Here.
Commissioner Ferguson.
Here.
Commissioner Ashbaugh.
Here.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Present.
Commissioner Torres.
Here.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Chair Wiley.
Here. All right, for those of you who have not attended a planning commission meeting before, if you plan to speak, think you might speak, know you need to speak, then I'm going to go ahead and ask you to stand now. All right, and just repeat, I will. Do you promise to share your truth with this body to the best of your ability? Thank you. You may be seated. All right, as we move forward tonight, if you are speaking and have questions, make sure you only address the chair. And if you are speaking, you're always going to need to be at the microphone and list your name and your address. All right, I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda. Any questions?
Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, I have a first.
I second.
I have a second. Any discussion on the minutes for the last meeting? Seeing none, I will call for the vote.
Commissioner Nesbitt.
Yes.
Commissioner Ferguson.
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbaugh.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Yes.
Commissioner Torres.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Chair Wiley.
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0. We have a case that needs continued. I will entertain a motion.
Chair,
Yes,
I make a
Commissioner?
motion to postpone case 25-400-08,
It's a
short-term
with-
rental to 2104 North Liberty Street to what date, Gabe?
It's actually withdrawal.
Withdraw the case.
Oh, it's withdrawn. Okay.
Withdraw the case.
Second.
Right, first and a second to withdraw case number 25-400-08. Any discussion? All right, I just have one. Do we know the reason withdraw? Is it going to come back before us again?
So the property owner has an existing long-term tenant that is currently residing and imminently vacating the property. The property owner has some other plans for it at this time. He may come back with an application at a later date, but did not choose to advance the application, Planning Commission, at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? All right, I will call for the vote.
Commissioner Nesbitt.
Yes.
Commissioner Ferguson.
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbaugh.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Yes.
Commissioner Torres.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Chair Wiley.
Yes, and the motion passes to withdraw case number 25-400-08, 7-0. All right, we're going to begin our public hearing with case number 25-125-02, the Infinity Apartments at 19300 East 37th Terrace, rezoning.
Yes. As you stated, this application for a rezoning / planned unit development is located in generally the southeast region of the City of Independence, the north side of 39th Street, across from the Independence Center and behind AMC Theaters. It's on the west side of Jackson Drive at the intersection of 37th Terrace and Jackson Drive. Here's a map indicating the required notification area for the subject site. a brief zoning and area history surrounding the subject site. There's a variety of zoning district classifications and uses. To the north is an undeveloped tract of general commercial land. In addition to that, there's a segment of railroad that abuts the subject site. To the east is an existing multifamily development. To the south, again, that's the commercial district with the AMC and other box stores. And to the west is two separate developments, one apartment complex and a nursing home to the southwest. This is an existing unplatted tract of land, about 11.67 acres in size. It abuts a railroad to the north. It's on the northwest corner of 37th Terrace and Jackson Drive, located just north of the 39th Street commercial corridor. Has a northerly aspect, meaning that the property slopes down in the northern region of the property. So there's a big dip from the right-of-way. Here is a exhibit showing the existing conditions. So the way to interpret this is that there's topography lines indicating the contours of the subject site. You'll see the north arrow indicating that north is going to the right if you're looking at the exhibit. So you can see how there's a steep decline in grade on the property. Here is a proposed site and grading plan. So you'll see a drive entrance off of 37th Terrace, and keep in mind that this exhibit is oriented, the north is facing to the right when you're looking at it. So drive entrance off of 37th Terrace and another drive entrance off of Jackson Drive. You'll see parking garage kind of indicated with those parking stalls. And here is their landscaping plan, so featuring a species of river birch, catalpa, redbud, dogwood, honey locust. So lots of examples of native species. A blown up landscaping plan showing the front entrance of the building. And this site is a little unique. It will feature a parking garage that is situated beneath the dwelling units. The parking garage is 2 levels. They provide a total of 685 parking stalls, and whereas the required parking for 360 units on this site is 661. So this is the second level of the parking garage. The first level is almost exactly the same as this one. A floor plan of the subject site. So 360 total dwelling units broken down, 46 studios, 196 one-bedroom, and 118 two-bedroom. There's an amenity deck featuring a pool or a hot tub, pool cabanas, grill area, pickleball courts, playground, and that will be situated in the center of the development. Here's an enlarged view of the floor plan. I thought this would be a good exhibit to show a studio apartment on the left, a 1-bedroom, and a 2-bedroom. So kind of get a chance to see the layout of the proposed dwellings. And here are elevations of the proposed Infinity Apartments. So as we discussed before, you've got 2 levels of parking in the lower levels. So you see the 2-tier parking garage and 4 stories of dwellings above. Staff does recommend approval of this application with the following conditions. So, in accordance with City Code, a final development plan must be submitted. Any alteration of the floor plan footprints will need to be finalized in the final development plan. The applicant will need to comply with all requirements prescribed by municipal services related to their preliminary sewer capacity study, showing future development areas and providing calculations for projected sanitary loading, the proposed development. A development agreement with the city is expected to be necessary for improvements to the sanitary sewer main, increasing capacity for this proposed development. The proposed water main extension will need to be located outside of a 3-to-1 slope and will need approval by the Municipal Services Department. The applicant will need to ensure that the Independence Fire Department has adequate access around the building before submitting the final development plan. The density of the residential units will be 30.84 units per acre rather than the maximum allowance of 30 units per acre. The applicant will need to provide a minor subdivision for the property prior to issuing any building permits, This preliminary development plan has not been reviewed for final engineering design compliance, and all development engineering must be designed in accordance with City of Independence standards and specifications prior to approval of the final development plan. And that concludes staff presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions, commissioners?
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, let's go back here. We got, how many apartments on building right now, plans going up? I can think of 3, am I correct?
Sorry, one building.
No, I meant that we already have approved, because we had this housing study, said we needed so many apartments, and we were up to maximum, I thought, so now we're gonna add another 360, is that correct?
So when we did the updated study to the housing study, the number that you're kind of looking for was, I think, in the upper 600s per units that we still had kind of
Available.
remaining before we got to what we can maybe consider saturation. It was just shy of 700. I don't remember the exact number. And so, yeah, so keep in mind, this is actually one of the housing developments that was approved last year. And so it's a different configuration. It's same site. It used to have multiple buildings. They've come back with a single story.
Okay, so they've changed this one.
Yeah, so this one's been changed, but it does not exceed the recommended housing study number of multifamily units. That answers your question.
Because has any of the other ones dropped out or not happening now?
The
that
other
you
ones
know?
haven't dropped out. We haven't seen them come, with final plans for construction yet. There's obviously the one that was off of 39th Street. There's the other one that I think North Point was working on. As far as I know, those are still in the works. They haven't expired yet. And so those, our expectation would be that those would come to fruition. But even with those, we're still under that housing study number.
Okay, so we're still under the number even with those in there. Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, you're probably still halfway there. So you still have, maybe another 300 or 400 units to hit that level.
I thought we were at max already with the last one that we approved.
We were close, and then if you recall, we did have an update to that housing study
Okay.
because we were seeing a lot of, multifamily being recommended. There had been some changes, obviously, with the economy and the housing market, and so we did update that study. And new numbers came back. It was like I said, we were still within about 680 or so units, and so this is still under that.
Okay. My next question is going to be, we haven't seen one like this in Independence, correct?
Not a single tower for a while, yes.
Okay, because you got 3 stories, and it looks like to me on the backside, even the garages are going to be exposed, is that correct?
Yeah, partially. The slope of the site will expose a portion of the lower parking garage. You're right.
Okay. Now, the only other thing I'm asking is that in the plans that they do put in charging stations underground with these. Now, has that something been asked, or?
So it's not something that we've required.
I know we don't require it because we're behind the ball on it. That's
Yeah.
why I'm trying to make sure we get up on the
And,
ball on it.
There's a lot of challenges to that. I mean, we'll probably have the applicant maybe speak to that,
Okay.
but it isn't something that we require them to do.
I know we're not requiring, but I'm thinking we're behind the times. I think we need to get up with the times, because I think we're behind on that aspect. So that's just all I'm asking. Thanks.
Okay.
Any questions? Anyone else?
Yes,
Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Aswell.
I'm sorry, I'm had a long day. Could you explain to me what a partially exposed garage looks like?
Yes, in the set of plans that you received, it may show that in the full set of elevations, you'll see that essentially the applicant is providing renderings of what the finished facade will look like. And so basically you just got, you're digging underground. So then just a portion of that wall of the parking garage will be exposed. The majority of that will be on the north wall.
Okay, so in the plan, is it what, east-west, and then this one on
the
there is north-south?
Yeah, so the top picture is looking north from the south, from south of the subject site. So you will see a parking garage in the front, but only the first level, and then looking south on the north side of the apartments, you'll see the full face of the parking garage. Keep in mind, though, that as I stated before, that there is a steep grade, so you've probably got about 10 or 15 feet from the road down to where the building will be constructed. So if you're driving on the road, you may not even know that there's a parking garage there.
Yeah, it slopes downward as it goes north, the land does, and it's almost V-shaped, too. It comes down from the sides like this and goes north, so. One of my concerns is, if they're gonna move enough land to control water.
So that's a great question, and I think the applicant could probably speak a little bit more than I can to this, but interesting that you say that. The previous preliminary development plan that Planning Commission recommended for approval last year, that plan became untenable because of the amount of earth that they would have to move, amount of fill material. So this plan is better in that regard.
Okay.
Any additional questions? All right, seeing none, I'm going to invite the applicant up. And once again, just state your name and your address, please.
Good evening. Jason Osborne is my name. My address, 1526 Grand Boulevard in Kansas City, Missouri.
What would you like us to know about your project?
Many things. So I represent the architecture firm. Our applicant, Clint Bergdahl, has not yet arrived, has been texting feverishly. So I got elected to do the speaking. As the planning staff has mentioned, this is kind of round two. We did go through this process last time with a completely different configuration. It was 4 separate buildings. But exactly as our gentleman here just explained, the topography on this site explains very clearly why this has remained undeveloped for the last 5,000 to 5 million years, depending on how old you think the Earth is. This is beyond challenging. So our friends at McClure Engineering, who are here with us today, and if we have additional questions, we can ask those. But after careful observation, after we got through this process and got our unanimous approval, the calculations started to flow, and we learned that we had to, in fact, bring in 265,000 cubic yards of fill. If you don't know how much dirt that is, I did not. I had to run the numbers. It's a box of dirt, approximately 13 acres, 12 and a half feet deep. It would take approximately, it's a lot of dirt. That's just to bring it in. It would take approximately 40 trucks a day for 331 consecutive days just to haul the dirt. So naturally, we had to shift our attention and try to come up with something that's a little more buildable. And so this is the end result of those investigations and conversations. One of the first things that we did was, of course, contact planning staff and have some meetings about what would be allowable and what processes we would need to go back through. And of course, that means coming back in front of the Planning Commission and explaining what happened. Why did we have 4 independent corridor-style elevator buildings and now 1 simple podium? And that is just the conditions of the parcel lent to a better better construction, better site, better units, and ultimately more compliance with some of the question marks that we had in our previous pre-development plan. And so I would say we've answered several of those questions. We actually have more green space now than we did before. We're able to pay more attention to the volume of units and that component as it balanced with the parking. We were slightly shy on parking last time, and that the lack of parking was really part of that 0.4 visitor parking requirement. Now we exceed both the required parking and the visitor parking components. Everyone gets covered parking. We were able to easily identify how trash would be collected, for example. And I think the other thing is our setback from the street is now fully in compliance. We had one building on the last one that was 10 or 11 feet, if memory serves me correctly. That was a little close to Jackson. Now we're fully in compliance with the setbacks there. We're also more in compliance with the overall building height. He mentioned that maybe we're 10 or 15 feet down on, we're more like 20 or 30 feet down. This building sits deep in a hole, hence the 265,000 cubic yards of fill. That was a number that surprised me, and I've been in this business a long time. So that's kind of the overview, but the mission remains the same. The mission remains the same for this development team. We are focused solely on providing quality housing. Quality housing comes in a variety of different forms. This one intends to be a market rate product, which means it is not a subsidy product or a voucher-based product. It's simply a market-based product. That was our initiative on the last go-round, and that remains the initiative now. We intend to have Class A amenities, Class A residential residents, and be a participant to the community in that same format. So I would say that's kind of my opening remarks, and I'm open for questions.
Well, I do think that the slope and maybe water concerns is one of the questions out there. So could you address that?
One of the first questions, great question, one of the first concerns that we had with the staff when we initially brought up the idea of a podium structure, how do we daylight the water? Our friends with our civil engineering group at McClure have taken all of those things into consideration. I mean, we do an awful lot of podium product around the country, not just here in the Kansas City metro area. And so we've got a variety of different formats on the schematics to handle those things, and we fully addressed that initially with the planning staff. So we are aware that that's a concern, and we do know that the property slopes to the north, and we've taken that into consideration as we put this design together.
All right, any other commissioners have questions?
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Nesbitt.
Okay. You're calling this a podium? Is that what you're calling this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you guys built any of those in the Kansas City area as of right now?
For sure. I would point at a couple of easy ones that were a little bit of the inspiration, if you will. If you're familiar with the Legends 267,
Okay.
that's the newest podium. In fact, it won the Kansas City Business Journal's Capstone Awards a year ago. So we were awarded that for best design. And it is a 3-story with one of those parking structures subgrade. It's a 5-story 267 unit sitting on top of a 3-story podium. In fact, if you're familiar with the Legends Shopping, it's actually connected by a bridge. It was part of the unified government's requirement for additional overflow parking. That one, 267 units, residential, followed by 637 parking spaces, which
Okay.
they only had a 1-to-1 requirement. So we were able to backfill that. And then the other one that I might point to, which is an easy target, is the Oxbow in North Kansas City. It's a 7/3, 208 units on a 1.4 acre parcel. It's more of an urban infill, but it's still a podium structure. In fact, I'd encourage you, if you're a fan at all of McLean's Bakery, they've got a wonderful new McLean's in the retail section of that building, but it sits right across from Chicken and Pickle. Those are just 2 easy examples.
Okay. So that, I'd like to go look at them. I think I have seen them. I know I've seen them, but okay.
Yes, sir.
So are
Oxbow
we-
and Legends 267, if you are taking
Right.
notes. Yep.
So are we going to put businesses in the bottom of this one? or
No,
not?
sir. This is strictly residential.
It's
Just
strictly-
like the Legends product is strictly residential.
Okay.
Format is similar. The layout is different. Center courtyard for amenity spaces that are usable only by the occupants and the paid residents and their guests.
Now, my next question is this going to be, what price range? Do you know that?
Offhand, that hasn't been determined, but we'll be compliant. Yeah, I say compliant, maybe not the right word. We'll be sensitive to the fact that, New York City and Kansas City have two very different price points. This will
Right.
be market rate, so it'll be in that area of where market rents should be. I
Okay.
don't have those figures offhand, but we do have a locally owned and operated professional property management team that will be operating the community.
Well, my question is, would I look at this at a higher end or a lower end?
I would say this will be on
Or
the
mid-range.
middle end of or upper end of the middle would be my guess.
Upper end of the middle,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Because my opinion is we don't have enough higher end apartments, but I know where the location is. That might be a good location. I don't know. That's why that's more like I'd like to see, but.
I don't know that the goal is to necessarily be the highest rent rates in all of Independence, but I also know that this is not going to be an income subsidy property, and it's
Okay.
not going to be a rent-restricted property, not by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, so basically it's just studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, no 3 bedrooms or anything like that?
Correct, that's the current format, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so your answer to that question is, I guess, say a family, well, you won't know this question, never mind.
Feel free to ask, we can speculate.
Well, I mean, I just want to know, a family of 5, would they rent that to somebody, a family of 5 too?
They typically would not. I mean, typically a family of 5 would not want to try to live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I think whatever the parameters for successful rental, there's an application process. And again, I think they would probably not meet the requirements for that.
Okay. I was just trying to figure out if they have a maximum occupancy for the whole
They
building.
probably do. I'm not overly familiar with the rental procedures, but that, I mean, if we needed to get some details on that, I'm sure that we could find that, but I
Then
would say-
my other question is gonna be then, is this gonna be like electric and water included in the rent, since it's
no, so
around-
they'll be individually metered.
They'll be injured?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how do they do the air conditioning units and heater units and stuff like that then? I guess, are they all on the roof or?
But we will probably have a mechanical well on the roof. I don't know that we've made any plans. Michael, roof? Yes, roof.
Okay, because I'm trying to figure out, okay, if they're all individual, so that's what I was trying to figure out. So where they put all the mechanical stuff, on the roof? So, okay,
Yes, sir,
okay,
with appropriate screening.
okay, thank you.
All right,
Yes,
can
sir.
you talk a little bit about the community square, the amenities?
Sure. I mean, so far, we've talked about all the basic amenities that you would come to expect from a Class A property. There's going to be a fitness center. There's going to be, one of the biggest things that we're seeing, or we'll call it a tranquility corner, places that are quiet for people to enjoy the outdoors or simply work from home. There's an awful lot of work from home happening since 2020. And if you look at the Legends, for example, or even, pardon me, or even the Oxbow, we have a lot of work from home spaces scattered throughout the building and in the common spaces. Typical gathering places for people to either commune, coffee stations, kitchens for entertaining purposes, and I would assume an awful lot of community-related activities for the residents to get to know one another. Building a sense of community for this particular property management group, I know them well. That's a big part of their programming.
Okay, great. I'm going to turn it over to our green space expert, Commissioner.
Thanks, no pressure. So these other buildings you mentioned, they have an amenity deck as well?
Yes, sir. It's a central courtyard. Whoever's running the slides, do we have an overhead view of the, there we go. It's a rather large community space. If my calculation and memory serve me correctly, it's a little over an acre of courtyard. It's a big courtyard. Conversely, when you look at the Legends, that was stuffed into a 2.1 acre parcel, and it filled it end to end. So the community spaces are significantly smaller than what you see here. So we're limited by 3 things on the amenity places here: our time, our money, and our imagination, and often our imagination exceeds our money and our time. So I think we'll be able to provide some pretty neat amenities.
So how deep is the soil profile on top of the garage ceiling, I suppose?
Well, I don't think that we're going to have like a rooftop garden, if that's what you mean.
So it's just a concrete court?
It will be, and we'll have other plants and amenities on top of that, but I believe that we'll be using planters for the deck. The true green space is going to be the impervious surfaces around the building itself.
Okay.
And we've made provisions for an awful lot of additional plantings. We actually talked about that in our original pre-development plan. I believe you actually brought that up last time. But with less building footprint, we're able to go back in and add more green space. And we paid attention to those comments last time.
The only reason I ask about that, because on our thing, it says open turf game area in that box.
That would be a synthetic turf, yes, sir.
Okay. And then what about, do you anticipate any problems with the sound in the courtyard?
No, sir. We will not have a pickleball court. We've learned our lesson. We've definitely learned our lesson. Four-story
Okay.
courtyards and pickleball does not go well.
Well, that's on here too, but we'll scratch that, so,
I think that was a hope and a dream, but I don't think that's going to make the cut.
okay. So it's well lit and all that? And
Absolutely.
it's basically just like a plaza, basically.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great way to categorize that.
You're welcome. You're welcome to use that.
I think we'll steal that. Take
Okay.
notes.
All right, any
Thank you.
additional questions?
One more question,
Yes, sir.
and I brought up staff. How about electric charging stations? Are you guys planning on doing anything in that in the basements?
It's funny you mentioned that. I actually had that as a note here, and I was going to bring it up if you hadn't asked. So we touched on that last time, although there is no requirement, as we stated at the last one, and you guys have had 8,000 meetings since then. But we did, the owner did commit to having some charging stations. We have yet to locate where those will be, but it's my understanding that we do expect to have a couple of those.
Okay.
They
thank you.
they are certainly becoming more popular.
All right, anyone else? All right, thank you so much.
Wonderful, thank you.
I'm sorry, just one other thing, just because I'm curious.
Please.
So how do you access the garage?
Let's have you go back to a couple of those. Let's just do the one more back, the other one. It's a little easier to read. There we go. So you'll notice that we have an entrance from the south off of 37th Terrace that takes you directly into the lower of the two structured parking. And then we have a right in, right out off of Jackson to the east, and that takes you into the upper parking level. It's my understanding they'll be connected unless they're connected interior, first to second floor. Yes. I don't know, okay. So you're in from the south and in from the east. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry, who asked that question?
Me,
Chairman Ashbaugh.
I'm not going to move there, but
You might.
I'm just curious. Well,
might. When you see the
things can
amenities.
happen. So,
We'll save you a spot.
okay, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I want a top floor if that's okay.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you're in the building, there's elevators down to that?
Absolutely, yes, sir. This will be an
On
elevator
each
building.
corner or a central location?
Offhand, I can't recall, but I know it's on the plans. If we want to go to the overall floor plan, oh gosh, let's see if my old eyes can see that far.
I can't.
Where did we put those elevator banks? There we go. Let's zoom in and search. I know that we have at least two, and then we have stairwells in the appropriate locations in the corners. So there's definitely one at the front where the leasing center is. The leasing center's front and center on the south end, so you'll have an elevator bank in there. There's your trash pit. The elevators are right there in the center, but we'll have at least two, unless I'm misunderstanding, Michael, two? At least. Correct. I'll make a point to make those more available and
I
ready
would-
to
I
discuss.
would suspect you'd have to follow some kind of fire code.
For sure,
correct, to get
absolutely.
Everybody out of there.
100% of our design will be in compliance with the building codes, no question.
Okay, that does bring up another question then.
Yes, ma'am.
In the past, there was some concern about the fire trucks getting through the area.
Okay,
Has that been addressed?
I believe we've addressed
For
that.
I think it was the west side?
yes, and the last conversation that we had about that, of course, was a completely different building configuration, but we do have a retaining wall that you can see 900 plus feet, Adam? Yes. Over 900 feet, so that retaining wall will allow us to be able to have access to the west side.
Okay,
Yes, good question.
all right. Thank you.
Most definitely, thank you.
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
so what did we approve last time for this? Was it just, what zoning? What did we approve before?
Yeah, Planning Commission recommended approval of a R30 PUD, the same parcel and the same developer.
Did it not pass or what?
It did pass. Yeah, what happened was
So what are we doing now then?
Yes, so what happened was that this is a preliminary development plan. So as specified in Independent City Code, if you deviate from your preliminary development plan in your final development phase, then you have to go back to the beginning.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that's why I was trying to figure out. So we
Yeah.
already passed the PUD 30, so I'm trying to figure out what.
So City Code stipulates minor changes that can be made to a preliminary development plan and still be within the parameters that you've approved. But if you deviate too much, which in this case, going from multiple buildings to one podium structure, that is too big of a deviation, a major change.
Okay. Thank you.
Well explained, Gabe. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this case? Second call, anyone who'd like to speak in favor? All right. Seeing none, anyone who'd like to speak in opposition of this case? Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition? All right, I see none. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing.
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
I'd like to make a motion we approve case 25-125-02, rezoning 19300 East 37th Terrace.
Second.
All right, I had a first and a second. Any final comments? All right, I'm going to call for the vote.
Commissioner Nesbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbaugh,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
Commissioner Torres,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair Wiley.
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0 for case number 25-125-02. Congratulations, look forward to seeing your building. All right, we'll move on to our second case for a short-term rental. It's not Woodlawn. All right, it is for case number 25-400-06, short-term rental 3712 South Chrysler Avenue.
Yes, this application for a short-term rental submitted by Michael and Jill Fry is located on the west side of Chrysler Avenue between 35th Street and 39th Street. Here's a map of the notification area as required by City Code. Brief zoning overview. This is an existing single-family neighborhood. You've got Ramsgate to the east, Nativity Manor to the west. It's all single-family surrounding the neighborhood. The nearest short-term rental map shows the closest active short-term rental, about 500 to 1,000 feet to the north. There is another application for a short-term rental that's being heard tonight, actually. So I indicated that in blue to the southwest of 3712 South Chrysler. This property is defined as Lot 7 of Redford Lawn Number 2 subdivision, recorded in 1943. The lot itself, the property, is about 17,971 square feet in size. The building, the structure, the dwelling was constructed in 1955 and contains about 1,500 square feet of living area. The facade is composed of white lap siding, and there are 2 driveways providing parking areas for the property. So kind of provided a blown up aerial image of the subject site so you can see that a little more closely. Those 2 drive entrances and the subject structure and an additional accessory structure in the rear. Here's a picture of the front facade. Get a good idea of those 2 driveways and the dwelling itself. Floor plan of the proposed short-term rental shows 3 bedrooms, a living room, kitchen. Parking plan of the proposed short-term rental shows those 2 driveways, so paved driveway on the the south has enough area for 2 vehicles and one on the north for 1. Staff recommends approval of this short-term rental application with the standard conditions. So they shall obtain a business license prior to operations, remit transient guest tax in accordance with city code, comply with any other use regulations and safety standards established by city code. The maximum occupancy shall be limited to 6 persons. The maximum number of bedrooms shall be 3. Noise monitoring system shall be installed. Good neighbor guidelines, evacuation plan, and other notices must be properly posted. And lastly, the property must be inspected by the fire inspector and pass the initial short-term rental fire and life safety inspection. One item to note about this application is there was a successful legal protest petition submitted to city staff yesterday. So a total of 33% of the area
That's large.
within 185 feet of the subject site signed a notarized petition.
So tonight we will be recommending only.
That is correct. Yep. Good point. So this goes to city council no matter what, and tonight's vote is a recommendation.
All right, thank you. Any additional questions for the staff? All right, I just have one. Could you tell me if this was a in good standing operating applicant?
So this was a short-term rental that had been operating prior to obtaining approval by the city. At the time of application, the city notified the property owner to discontinue operations. That the discontinuation of the operations did not occur until the applicant was asked a second time to discontinue the operations. At this time, their property is not listed on booking platforms to staff's knowledge. So they
Okay.
have removed that listing.
All right, thank you for that.
Gabe, there's a building in the back of that that's rather large. What is that?
That is a fairly tall accessory structure. It appears to be a clear span building about 1,800 feet in size. So it is rather large. It almost looks like a pole barn kind of structure. I'm the property owner. If my recollection serves me right, I believe obtained ownership of the property in 2022. I could be mistaken, but I believe that structure was likely already existing when they purchased the property. I would have to go back and check, just make sure about that though.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for staff? Okay, I'm going to invite the applicant up. Once again, please state your name and your address.
Hi, Michael Fry. We live at 2118 Northwest Killarney Lane in Lee Summit.
Okay, and what would you like us to know about your project?
So the pole barn is about 40 by 50, so it's about 2,000 square feet. We did acquire the property in 2000.
Would you mind moving the microphone up one level there?
Oh, there we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, we acquired the property in 2022 with the idea of leveraging the pole barn for some storage. We have a boat, and then fixing up the house to have an Airbnb. Weren't actually aware that you had to have a license. And then we were contacted last year, and then at that time we decided we were going to take the property out of the Airbnb market because we had 2 sons that were living there for about 6 months. And then when we decided again that we were wanted to reopen it this year, we reached out because to start the process to understand what we had to do to get the license. We didn't. When we were originally contacted, they didn't say, "Hey, shut everything off. We need you to apply." They said, "Hey, it'd be great if you would apply." So we didn't because we decided to take it off the market. So when we started, we didn't really realize that we needed to take it off. And then when they told us to do that, we had people who were already there and didn't realize that we could sort of shut off Airbnb and VRBO without canceling on people. And so when they reminded us again, they needed to have it off, we realized, hey, we could actually do that and the people could still fill out the few remaining rentals that we had. So that's why that's the situation that happened there.
Right, what would you like us to know about a short-term rental?
Well, we think it would be, it's great for the community. When we acquired the house, it was pretty run down. We put a new roof on it, did a bunch of work on it. Feel that the way that we run the Airbnb, we've never done it before, but we have 5.0 ratings, nothing less than that since we've been doing it. We do not, I think we had one person that kind of had a party there early on, the first couple of months we were doing it, and we realized there are things we could do, no single night rentals. We don't allow people to do like same day, so we sort of changed our policies because we don't want that. Our rates are a little bit higher than normal, so we tend to get good quality people in there for the short-term rentals that we have. So we'd love to have that as an asset to the community.
All right, any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Nesbitt, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Sorry. Do you know now that once you get this approved for a short-term rental, that your property taxes will go up?
Yes,
You'll be a commercial tax?
I did see an estimated assessment about a month ago that showed
No,
already.
did they have the commercial? 'Cause
It
you
said,
got-
it said commercial, and it was about double what it had been before.
Okay, because I've realized that some people don't know that once we approve a place being a short-term rental, it goes to commercial tax rate. And
Yeah,
that's-
I didn't know that until about a month ago. I sort of figured that out because I saw that it jumped up.
Right, so that's why I just wanted to make sure you knew that, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Any additional questions for this gentleman?
I have one.
Yes, Commissioner Young.
There's a room, looks like behind the garage, that's got a window and a door, and it has a smoke detector listed on it. It's right behind the garage. But it's not a bedroom. Is that going to be storage? What's
Oh,
that
that room
space?
there, that's actually, we turned that into a pantry laundry. So there's a stackable washer and dryer, and there's sort of a pantry with a microwave in there, kind of extension off the kitchen to make it a little bigger.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Right, as we've heard, there is a legal protest against a short-term rental. Have you talked to your neighbors with the shared driveway?
The shared driveway is ours.
Oh, it's yours.
So we
Okay.
actually, when we acquired the house, we realized that we couldn't get into the big pole barn without getting a lien on the other property, and the people who were selling it to us, I didn't realize that they owned that property next door, and they said, well, why don't you buy it? There happened to be a non-rent paying tenant in that house, and we said, well, we won't buy it with a tenant. And then that person ended up not moving out, and so they had to go into a legal proceeding to get that person evicted. So we didn't buy them at the same time. We ended up closing on that house, I think 4 or 5 months after, in 2023. So we actually own that property as well.
So you own all the parking, basically?
Yeah, all of that in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
But I-
two separate, there's two separate driveways on the south side of the house. One belongs to the house on the south, and then there's two separate driveways that are divided.
Have you talked to your neighbors?
I have a neighbor who lives to the south of me, who I talk to regularly. The neighbor who lives to the north of me, we've had some issues with. So, yeah.
Okay.
We've actually had the police involved as well. So, and then we've learned a lot about that person through police reports and that sort of thing. But I don't want to necessarily go into
Okay.
all that right here.
All right. Anything else we should know?
Just would love to get approval to, continue to, or to restart operating our short-term rental, because like I said, we think it's a great asset.
All right, thank you very much.
I have a
Okay,
question.
thanks.
Oh, we do have another question.
Yes.
Just curious, you said there was a party in there, but then you learned from that mistake and took some action. So was this party something pretty disruptive, and could that have influenced folks to not want this to happen there?
It's possible that's what happened. I don't know. I'm not familiar with who might be filing a petition. If it's the neighbor to the north, well, we'll put it this way. I think that person has had, 12 911 calls to the police in the last 15 months, usually seeing or hearing things that aren't there. I could share with you copies of police reports. Be happy to. I have a copy that I can leave with you to give you some more background on that whole situation. But we also learned, when we were originally looking to buy the house, closed on the first property, I had a pretty cordial relationship with the person to the north. Her name's Laura. Told me she was a lawyer. And we were told her we're looking to acquire the other property too, and that there's a problem because there's a person living there still that wouldn't move out. And she referred to that person in language that I don't really want to use, but it had the word meth in it and then a bad word. And once we then got into the property and that person was no longer there, that person would come back sometimes and start moving things around on the property, which we didn't really like because they were not supposed to be. They were court ordered not to be on the property. And then last summer, we sort of saw that person doing a bunch of things for the person to the north of us who had used this term for her, which we thought unusual. And then we actually talked to her about it because this person was coming onto our property, making piles of things, and she seemed to be aware of it because she was going into her house and then coming over and going into her house and coming over. So we had a conversation with her about that, and she sort of, we didn't use the term that she used with this other woman, but we're kind of talking to her in her house, and then this woman kind of comes in and yells at us to get out of this other woman's house. So it was a very strange scenario, so we ended up leaving there. At that point, we just did not have too much to do with this woman. We did about a month ago when we were working through, because there's some of those pictures show that there are RVs on our property. My daughter and son had stored one behind the building there. You can see it there. We had ours there kind of plugged in, just getting it ready to go for a trip, and then we just sort of stored it there for the winter. When we were cleaning it up about a month ago, we found that there was a bullet hole through the back of the RV, and then we actually kind of followed the trajectory because it had been parked there right next to her property. It was a downward angle where it went in. You could see the exit, and then you could see a hole in the house next door across the shared driveway. There's a bullet hole. Called the police. They came out. He actually found the bullet, and then he went and talked to her. So then she knew that we were having this conversation, and then he told us that there was a police report back in March where there were shots fired at 1 a.m. She thought someone was coming through her window, and she shot out her window, shot 2 times out her window. But the police came. No one was at the house at that time, and they didn't really notice that had been shot. So that's sort of the background, and that's where I found out when I asked for the police report on that. I found that there were like 12 other police reports in this time period. So that's a little bit of the background with our situation with that particular neighbor.
Okay, well, it sounds like an odd situation,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean I'm against it. I just, you might want to be a little proactive with some information, just a suggestion. You might want to talk to your councilman, if it is going to council,
Okay.
and share your side,
Okay, yeah, I wasn't aware that anyone had filed any kind of,
Well,
thing against
it's
us, so.
just, because if a lot of people come and show up all of a sudden, you're kind of on your left foot, so
yeah.
just for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this case? Anyone to speak in favor? Anyone who would like to speak in opposition of this case? All right. No one in opposition?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a question, a procedural question. Since there has been a formal protest against this, are we required to have a motion to approve or to move the issue forward to the chamber, to the council?
We need to do a motion of a recommendation one way or the other.
So I move to approve.
Okay?
Second.
I have a first and a second.
We need to close it first.
I will close the public hearing.
Now I'll make the motion.
And now I'll second.
All right. Any final comments? All right, I will call for the vote.
Commissioner Nesbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbaugh,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
Commissioner Torres,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair Wiley.
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0. Excuse me. For case number 2540006. All right. Thank you very much for coming. All right, we're going to move on to short-term rental. Case number 2540007 for a short-term rental at 3804 South Woodland Avenue.
Okay, so some of this may look familiar in this presentation. So interestingly enough, the application for short-term rental at 3804 South Woodland Avenue is just a couple blocks away on the north side of 39th Street, across from the Nativity Park subdivision on Woodland Avenue. It's a dead-end street ending in a cul-de-sac.
So Gabe, if we approve both, are they within the limits?
So that's correct. So they're outside of the 500-foot site separation requirement, so both of the short-term rentals can be approved.
Okay, thank you.
Here's a notification area map as required by city code. Brief zoning or area history. Again, you'll see Chrysler Avenue on the east, 39th Street on the south. It's all single-family residential neighborhoods recorded sometime between the 40s and the 60s, a variety of different subdivisions and all single-family. The nearest short-term rental map, and again, you can see I've reversed this map so you can see indicated in the blue outline is 3712 South Chrysler Avenue, so it's outside that 500-foot site separation requirement. So this is Lot 8 of the resurvey of Nativity Manor subdivision. The resurvey was recorded in 1961. The subject site is about 14,500 square feet in size. The dwelling was constructed in 1962. It contains about 1,800 square feet of living area above ground. 3 bedrooms are located on the main level, and an additional bedroom is located on the basement level. Of course, that bedroom does have a egress window that conforms to residential building code. The facade is composed of variegated brick, and I'll show that here from street view. See, it's a ranch-style house, 1,800 square feet in the main level. A floor plan that the applicant has provided as part of their application shows those 3 bedrooms on the main level, dining room, kitchen, living room, and stairwell on the left side or the south side of the upper level. A floor plan of the basement shows a bedroom, south side of the basement, another living room, dining area, bathroom, laundry, and garage. parking plan shows that there's a 20-foot wide driveway, 80 feet long, providing ample room for 4 cars. And although the parking plan shows street parking for 2 cars, city code does only allow street parking for 1 car. Technically, they don't need it because they have enough parking off street for 4 cars. Staff recommends approval of the short-term rental application with the standard conditions. Once again, the short-term rental shall obtain a business license, remit transient guest tax, comply with all safety and other operational standards as required by city code. The maximum occupancy of this proposed short-term rental shall be 8, a limit of 2 persons per bedroom. The maximum number of bedrooms will be 4. A noise monitoring system will be installed and conforming with city code. Good neighbor guidelines and other notices shall be posted properly within the dwelling, and the property must pass an inspection by the fire department. That concludes staff's presentation for this case, and I'm available for any questions.
All right. Thank you, Gabe. Can you tell me if they have been operating previous?
This applicant has not been operating prior to applying for a short-term rental, so the applicant's been in close contact with city staff and has been great to work with.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to invite the applicant forward. And you'll probably need to move the microphone down.
Nice to meet you.
And state your name and your address.
I'm Lynn Collins, and I live in Oak Grove, 8406 South Outer Butte Road, Oak Grove, Missouri.
All right, and gentlemen, are you going to speak as well?
Maybe.
All right, your name?
She's got this. My name is Dudley Collins. I live with her at 8406 South Outer Belt Road in Oak Grove, Missouri.
All right. And what do you want us to know about your short-term rental?
Well, we've come in before you to ask you for a permit to have a short-term rental at this address, 3804 South Woodland. It's a very nice house, you could tell. It's in a great location. That's one of the best things about this. It's a very comfortable house and well-built house. It has a beautiful backyard. Parking is gorgeous, or plentiful. So there's a lot of good things about this short-term rental. And all of our kids have one. And I said, you know what? We got to get us a short-term rental too. Okay. So anyway, it's by the stadium. You know, Independence has a lot of history, and a lot of people visit Independence. So I think it's a great location, and I'm really excited to do this. I hope that you're in favor of this, and thank you for listening to us.
All right, so trying to keep up with the kids.
Right.
All
Right,
right.
right. Yes, exactly.
All right. Commissioners, what questions do we have for the applicant? All right, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Seeing no one present, but I will ask anyone to speak in favor or opposition. And seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Madam Chair,
I will entertain a motion, Commissioner.
I move to approve case 25400-07 short-term rental at 3804 South Woodland Avenue.
Second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Thank you, Commissioner Torres. All right, any final discussion? All right, I will call for this vote.
Commissioner Nesbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbaugh,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
Commissioner Torres,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair Wiley.
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0. Case number 25400-07, short-term rental at 3804 South Woodland Avenue. Congratulations, and thank you very much for choosing Independence. All right, we have a few items to just address. As you know, Commissioner Torres will be out of the country for the month of July. So I wanted to bring everybody's attention that we will have a vote. Annually, we vote for the chairman and the vice chair. we're going to postpone that vote to the second meeting in August. I wanted to say it now, so if anybody will not be present, that we can adjust again, but we have to have every commissioner present in order to vote. So the second meeting in August, does everyone plan to be here? No. All right, no mail-in ballots, correct? That's what Commissioner Oswa just said.
Yeah, I'm planning to
Well, I figured it might be a little tough to
Will that be August?
tell you to sit in on a meeting, so.
Will that be August 5th or August 12th?
No, it'd be the second meeting in August,
So now we're going down to 19th or 26th?
the 26th. Because your chair will be gone on August the 12th. So FYI, Vice Chair. Okay, you're in charge on August 12th. All right. The second thing is that, as you know, 2026, we are hosting the FIFA World Cup. And we have the benefit of Michael Young on the Planning Commission, but he's also on that committee. And they have been working on some suggestions involving short-term rentals and room rentals that will affect us. And so what I've asked him to do is to provide us some information. So he's going to be sending out that information via email to each of us, just so that we have a little more time to study on it before it's ever brought before us. And then hearing today from City Council, the Wally's is a big project that's going to be coming before us. It looks like that is postponed for at least a good 6 weeks. So I just wanted to let you know that they were unable to meet the July 2nd deadline. So, and then I will also say, because we don't meet next week, happy birthday, Gabe, June 30th. And then Pepe, because you will be out of town celebrating with your mother, happy birthday in July.
Thank you.
All right. And with that,
Madam Chair.
anyone else? Yes.
I just wanted to mention that Eileen Weir, who's the chair of that committee, gave a report to the city council last night at the study session,
Yes.
which you can watch on YouTube.
Yes, you can.
So if you don't want to wait for Mr. Young to give us a report, you can do that.
Yes. All right. Anything from anyone else? All right.
So staff did check the schedule. The second meeting in August is the 26th.
Okay.
First meeting is the
26th.
12th, and the second meeting is the 26th.
All right.
Maybe subject to change, but just figured.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Gabe. And with that, we are adjourned.